Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I'm your host today, Alana Espenship, and today in studio we have KJ Foristall. KJ, how are you doing today?
Hello, I am doing so good. So happy to be back on the podcast and so happy to be catching up with you specifically.
I know, it's so good to see you here. I mean, we were both in the same sorority. We both lived in the house, so it's nice to see a familiar face back on campus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to hear, you're the creator of a very popular app now, and, you started it in college. I want to hear about your time being at FSU and the career path that you were planning on taking and how that changed throughout your college career.
Absolutely. So like most entrepreneurs, I'm sure I can speak for the bulk of us, that it was something that I was born with as far as a bug, that I could not get out of my head, starting something of my own. Since I was very little, if you could take a rainbow loom bracelet, business public at, 12, I probably would have tried. But I always loved creating things. I'm really fortunate. My dad's an entrepreneur. I loved the flexibility that I saw him have. He works harder than anybody else I know, but he was able to show up for all the important things and help people. I know it sounds cliche of sorts, but no matter what you're building as an entrepreneur, I really believe that the close relationship that you have with your product, that you have with your users every day, gives you such an incredible potential to really build something that people love and really help the world in one way or another. So the Moran College of Entrepreneurship was one of the main reasons why I chose to come to FSU in the first place. It is the first fully funded state program for entrepreneurship, which I thought was incredible. And so the commercial entrepreneurship major really appealed to me, and absolutely no regrets. So when I first started as a freshman at FSU, I was very interested in women's fashion. I ran a connective e-commerce drop shipping company at the time that I had started up during my later years of high school. And although it was ultimately a fail, it was an incredible learning experience. And mostly because of the exposure it gave me to manufacturing, to sourcing, where a lot of our clothing comes from in our world today. And it was a disappointing realization for sure. The places that I was sourcing from as an e-commerce boutique were the same factories, the same warehouses, the same wholesale companies that many popular boutiques, the majority of online resellers get their clothes, and it comes from horrendous conditions for the people manufacturing them and horrible quality for the people purchasing them. And so I knew that my next venture, I really wanted to be able to give back in a more proactive way to a entity that I negatively contributed to for a while. So after that venture ended, I kind of sat on the idea of entrepreneurship for a while, waiting for the next big idea to come. I'm a big believer that the right problem will find you. As entrepreneurs, I think that it is much smarter to build a product for a problem that people actually already have. A lot of entrepreneurs end up in a sticky situation when they're trying to sell a product and a problem. And so with RAIDE, I was walking to class one day, and within the span of 10 minutes, I'd received 3 different text messages from different group chats of women looking for last-minute clothing. And that is a problem that I had experienced as well, and that feeling of not wanting to buy something that you'll only wear once. And so it hit me. I sat on the idea for a while and then ended up starting to build RAIDE with my incredible co-founder, Noah Romo, the spring semester of my junior year.
I think that's really cool, and it's important to touch on the fact that you said, something had really failed before you figured out what you kind of wanted to do. I think it's important for entrepreneurs to know that, you're going to fail 30 times before you succeed.
Absolutely.
There's no way you're going to, sometimes you can get lucky and you're going to have this one thing and it's going to blow up and it's going to be great, but that's very lucky. And I think with you, you touched on a really important topic that a lot of entrepreneurs already know. And I think that's important to kind of recognize.
Yes.
So you said that, you don't want to create a product and a problem, or essentially there's already apps like this, there's already apps like RAIDE, there's already websites like this. What do you think makes RAIDE different from other websites and apps in the same kind of area?
Absolutely. So RAIDE is unique in quite a few ways. I do believe that clothing rental, as we've seen over the last 5 years, has really blown up in the sense of like a Rent the Runway or a Nuuly. RAIDE is very different in the sense where we don't hold any of our own inventory, so it is a marketplace app. So students are able to lend and rent directly to and from one another. I love that model more for a multitude of reasons, and our users really do too. It is a fantastic way for students to feel empowered in entrepreneurship, for them to make reoccurring revenue on their clothes. And it's also even more sustainable for the environment than those B2C sellers or renters, I guess you could say, because we eliminate the need for any shipping. So it really is hand-to-hand pass-off on campuses. And as far as a clothing rental marketplace model, it's not entirely unique. It has been tried before. It has been failed before. And there are some other people in the space that are still trying it right now. I believe RAIDE is really special in the niche that we've identified, and even more than that, the community that we've built. By really focusing in on college communities where borrowing has been around for so long, we're just making borrowing better. And I think that our users really identify with that. And so that's made our journey to product market fit a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's crazy because, I remember when you were first making announcements at Chapter about RAIDE, and now, like, I don't know a single person at this school who doesn't use the app. Like, I would have a friend of a friend be like, hey, I rented something from your friend. I saw you're on her Instagram. Can you please reach out to her and make sure she responds to me? I'm like, it's crazy that, like, I know the person who, like, co-founded this app, worked so hard, and, like, you also see entrepreneurs too, like sometimes it takes like 5 to 10 years to create like a company and a brand. And when did you graduate? Like
I graduated in May.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's crazy to think about. Like, you already have something figured out, and it's clearly very successful here. It's also available at UF, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we have since scaled to UF and most recently UCF.
Okay.
And now we are working to expand to about 5 other universities come January. And I appreciate your compliments very much. That is very kind. I certainly could not do it without my team, Noah, my incredible co-founder, and also Morgan Christensen, who you also know, who's an AD who was not only my little, still is, will always be, but also now our insanely talented CMO. So RAIDE really is, it's the people that make the product, and I'm a big believer of that, and I'm very lucky to have found the team that makes RAIDE what it is.
No, that's awesome. I'm excited to see where it's gonna go. In like all these universities where it's available. So obviously it hasn't been easy. Creating an app, like starting it as like, what are you, 22, 23? Like
22.
Okay,
yes.
So I want to know, like, what was the most difficult challenge that you've had to face with RAIDE?
Absolutely, that's a fantastic question. I would say, and it kind of goes off of what you had mentioned earlier, which is how you approach failures. We're a big believer in, fail fast, but iterate faster. And so we certainly have hit roadblocks. Like any tech product, it's first getting it into the hands of users. It's changing traditional habits. So when sitting down with early adopters from the very beginning, looking at their shopping habits, looking at where they go when they have an event, what's the first thing they think of, and as you've identified, now that place is RAIDE, but that didn't happen overnight, and so I think the patience to really keep working on that product, see that product develop. One thing I definitely learned early on as a founder was to make peace with imperfection and the art of the graceful pivot of sorts. Noah has actually been a huge proponent of that and teaching me over time. In the very beginning, we started RAIDE as an Instagram page. That was our MVP. We begged girls to send in dresses that they were open to renting to other women on campus. And, they did. We'd put them on a story, and girls would DM us to rent them. And it was all through Venmo. Super, super simple MVP. But the idea of that drove me crazy. And I was like, no, we cannot do that. That does not match the brand. That does not match the quality of what we want to provide to users. But things like that in the early days were so important because it showed us what worked and what didn't work, what our users were truly looking for. And so working with those users every step of the way, even still we're meeting with users every week to make sure that what we're building is truly what people are looking for. And I think it shows.
No, it definitely does. So, I feel like it's kind of crazy. Like, an app is not something easy to come up with. Like, I'm a social entrepreneurship minor. You said you were as well. And, we learn a lot about, like, innovation and what it takes, essentially. So, you kind of said that your dad was an entrepreneur, but what kind of led you to be an entrepreneur? Was it him, or was it something that you always kind of knew? I know you said the rainbow loom bracelets and everything, but...
Yes. Honestly, since I can remember, I loved projects. I think that projects and problem solving. Noah and I talk about that a lot, that to be a good entrepreneur, you just have to be a natural born hacker, to not feel restful when you see a problem in the world. And I think that comes out in a multitude of different ways, some positive, some negative. But when it comes to business and keeping an eye out for systems that are broken, or that can be minorly tweaked or majorly tweaked to make a better reality for the other people living in the world with you, I think that's what makes an entrepreneur. And that is something that, for as long as I can remember, would kind of eat away at me, and has definitely led me down the path that I walk today.
Gotcha. That's great. It's, as like someone who would like to be an entrepreneur one day, it's nice to kind of sit eye to eye with somebody, who has worked very hard to get to where they are. And I think it's definitely inspiring to a lot of like entrepreneurs that, want to succeed and want to do what they want to do, because like nothing ever comes easy. So yeah, what I want to know is, if you could tell yourself one thing from where you started, like what would it be, and what advice would you have for yourself?
Absolutely. And just to quickly comment on what you just said, I once again appreciate the compliments so much. I am still such a young founder, such a young entrepreneur. And so there truly is so much more to learn. And it is only from the wiser, more experienced, talented people that I try to surround myself with, that I hope to become even a piece of that one day. But as far as advice that I would give to myself or to a even earlier starting entrepreneur, I would say give yourself grace. I know that, or I've learned that this is not an easy practice. Success from the outside can mean a million things on the inside. Imposter syndrome is so real. I know that's something I've struggled with even today. And I think just having grace to build something that doesn't exist, whether it be as a musician, whether it be as a entrepreneur, product entrepreneur, whether it be to form a new organization or club. I think entrepreneurship can come through in so many ways, but it can be lonely at times when you're creating something and have to kind of take a bet on yourself that I can make this work and I can make this something that people will love and people will want to use. That's a scary thing to do, to put yourself out there like that. And so I think giving yourself grace and just surrounding yourself with people who will encourage you on good days and bad. I'm so grateful to have people in my life who will celebrate the failures as much as they will the success. And I think that is so important, especially when creating a founding team, especially when narrowing down on what product or project you want to build. Finding the right people, as I know I said before, and just giving yourself grace, because it is an incredible journey, an incredible ride, but certainly not an easy one, and it can certainly be a lonely one at times too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important also to not only give yourself grace, like in the workforce, but like in life, because you're still figuring things out.
Yes.
And like work can be so stressful, life can be stressful, like giving yourself grace at the end of the day, like period, I think is super important. And I like that you touched on that.
100%.
So, yeah, I want to know, like, what exactly, like, how did you and your co-founder come together and think, like, how did you create this idea and make it into, like, a functional app? Like, I know you said it started on Instagram and it started with Venmo, and I know that didn't really work very well, but you got to start somewhere. I want to know how this idea actually formed into a functional app.
Absolutely. So once I had the idea, I quickly went to one of my best friends who is incredibly talented. I am not technical at all. So he had great experience in the app building and tech software space. So I went to Noah and we met at Greenwise in College Town, and I pitched him my idea. And of course, the first thing he said, understandably, he's like, KJ, I get so many app ideas. And that really speaks to the fact that as entrepreneurs, we're always coming up with things. And that's a great thing. But understandably, you can't run with the first idea you have. And so, we talked about it and we talked to users. And I think that's so important. And once again, a significant piece of advice I would give to somebody who has an idea or is looking to build something. There are things that I felt so passionate about with this product, or even while it was still just an idea, that once we talked to users, they were like, I wouldn't use it for that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that was something I thought was so smart, but turned out pivoting, and good thing we did, because once again, if you're selling a problem to people rather than just a really good product for a problem they already need, that will take so many more resources in the long run. And so sure enough, once we decided, we talked to users that we were onto something, we just started building, and we built for months and months and months and months, and worked with users all along the way. As far as the logistics behind it, Noah would be a much better person to talk about how to build an app. Like I said, not my expertise, but he truly is incredible, and we make a perfectly diversified team as far as where our skill set lies, and both being very, very addicted problem solvers, which I think is what matters most. And so we launched at FSU officially on October 9th of last year. And yes, now have thousands of users across FSU, UF, and UCF. So the app is still very much a work in progress. I know Noah would want me to say that as well, but we're building every day and we're learning every day. And so I know that RAIDE still has so far to go, but I am so excited to see it from its inception to where it ultimately ends up.
No, I think we're all pretty excited to see where it ends up. What has been the most rewarding part of this entire process of creating RAIDE and, meeting with people and having a co-founder? Like, what has been the most rewarding part of it all?
I would say the users, hands down. I've gotten to talk with women in the past months that are using RAIDE to help pay for college, who are using it to, supplement a multitude of expenses, whether it be sorority dues, getting to entertain different involvements that they may not have been able to do without that side income, or that it has just fostered entrepreneurship in general. I think that that's really cool, because I know the only reason why I am an entrepreneur today is because of women I saw that went and did something, took a risk on themselves and built. And like I said, imposter syndrome is so real, but to once in a while hear from somebody that something I have done or am trying to do makes them feel more capable to try their hand at something has 100% been the most rewarding part.
No, that's great. That's great to hear. So the app is only for women, correct?
So no, RAIDE is open to anyone. Right now, our users are predominantly women in a large majority, but we actually are working with the university, with SGA, and some different strategic partnerships to try and open the app up even further, because everybody needs clothes and everybody needs event-specific clothing, formal wear, et cetera, business attire for interviews. And so although our early adopters were certainly women, Panhellenic women, in the long run, we hopefully will open that up to so many more people as well.
Yeah, I think it'll actually open up the opportunity for men as well. I feel like a lot of men, I'm in innovation by design class, and one of the groups in our class, their problem is like men's fashion. And a lot of men, like, they kind of go for like comfort rather than like fashion, because it's kind of like deemed as like abnormal kind of. And I feel like with RAIDE, it would kind of open up the opportunities for men like in college campuses who like want to like, have nice clothing for certain events or date functions, etc. And I feel like that'll kind of open up the opportunity for men to kind of be more comfortable about it and, not have to go buy stuff, but just rent it.
Absolutely. I think that vintage and thrift has become so much more popular amongst our generation, and especially for men. I know that game day attire, as well as, more professional formal clothing, there is a need. And so hopefully RAIDE will be the one to fill it.
I definitely think it will be. I think you guys have like great, like heads on your shoulders. I think it's gonna be great. I mean, it already has been great, so I feel like it's gonna be even more great. So what have you learned about the fashion preferences and the rental services through your database of like college students? Like, what have you learned about? Have you learned anything specific about the fashion preferences, or is it all kind of like specific and different?
I will say one core principle that we've had at RAIDE from the beginning. One of my biggest problems with sustainable fashion when building RAIDE was that it's highly unattainable financially. To be able to go out and buy something that's been handmade or something that was manufactured in a sustainable fashion. I know I have a couple of brands that I love, but I can't go out and buy a $200 shirt every day. And so I think that one thing that we've really wanted to adopt to our users to follow their lead, I think that when approaching sustainability, you have to meet people where they are. And if RAIDE came in, banning all fast fashion brands or being really specific of wanting to be a hardcore sustainability marketplace, it wouldn't have worked the way that it has. And so we've adopted a very inclusive mindset from the beginning that a lot of the pieces that are lended and rented on RAIDE are from brands that don't have great manufacturing, don't have great environmental standards. But for us, it's about the fact that they are being worn now more than once, that they are being passed around between lenders rather than people having to go out and buy and buy and buy. I see RAIDE as really helping to take a step down from overconsumption culture, which I think, especially within the college demographic, runs rampant most times. And so I think that as far as the trends or fashions that I see being listed on RAIDE most often, it's really all the brands that college students already know and love, and we are not exclusive whatsoever, but we do encourage people through RAIDE to be able to give those things a better life and not collect dust in a closet and then be tossed into a landfill.
No, 100%. I think, too, RAIDE has definitely decreased the amount of overconsumption, especially with, like, sorority girls. I live in a house with 45 girls. I know, yes. I mean, including myself, I know what it's like to just see something on, like, TikTok and be like, oh, I need to buy that. Whereas, like, I could just go on RAIDE and see if someone has it so I can wear it, and then a bunch of other people can wear it. I feel like that's super cool.
You got it. That's the idea.
No, but I really appreciate you being here, KJ. It's been amazing being able to talk to you about RAIDE, and for anyone who doesn't know what RAIDE is, download the app. It's awesome. It's going to be even better. I know it will be, but I really appreciate you being here, and I've learned so much about entrepreneurship and you as a person. I can't wait to see what the app becomes.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've loved getting to chat with you as well.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset. If you guys like this episode, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, or even comment because we respond to those as well. We'll see you guys next time.